I said that. How long did I say we do Ma'aseh Shabbos for? 2 days. 6 working days. Okay, so we have till Sunday. That's good. Now, Baruch Hashem, it looks like all the bidudnikim are slowly surfacing. Slowly, it's Hashem. So we saw like this. We saw that when it came to the Shaila of a Mummer and the Shaila, you sit there. We saw the Shaila of a Mummer and the Shaila of Apikoiris. What's his din exactly? Does he have a din of a Yisrael Kape Ma'aseh Shabbos? Does he have a din of a Goy Kape Ma'aseh Shabbos? Which ironically, if he has a din of a Goy, it might be worse because a Goy has a din of Kadesh Yasu, which brought us to the last Shaila of the Shir. The Shaila of what happens if you have a bus. That first bus that comes from the Kaisel. Now that bus, to get that bus is extremely important. What's the reason why it's extremely important to get that bus? Because it's free. Now, is it free or not? Is one of the questions that all of the Paiskim in Yerushalayim get asked at least once a week, because some of the bus drivers hold yes, and some of the bus drivers hold no. Sorry? And there's always that guy who called up Eged. Right? But when you called Eged, the guy who answered the phone was the guy who holds no. Right? So it's one of these things that's not clear. I don't know the answer to this question, I must admit. Do you know the answer, my singer? The later buses that are free also, yeah. So that's why to get this bus is extremely important, because whatever the case is, but it's free. So Maisa, it's also people, that's what they do. They were there, mincha, a lot of people. Some people, they daven 40 days by the Kaisel. They have all types of Yeshuas. So what do? They come, how are they going to chap around on the Shabbos one? So they come by mincha, and then they stay till Motzei Shabbos, and then they get that first bus back, and that's how they do it. So Maisa, that first bus is there. Somehow it's there at about, 18 minutes, 20 minutes. It's there ready after Shabbos. It's there. What do you say? I'm saying, Metzias, you see that we know that when we came there in Mincha, it wasn't there. Okay. And who knows if he's an Arab and what if he's a Jew? I don't know. Who knows if he's a Jew? If it's an Arab, so you get involved. Okay. So I'm saying, it's a shame. We're not dining. We'll see in a minute. Maybe. What? No, but he's saying, Rabbi said. He's asking that if it would be a guy, so by a guy we have a miyuchatika kula that we don't have by Yisrael. What's the miyuchatika kula that we have by a guy that we don't have by Yisrael? By a guy, we have a kula that by a guy, if he did the action on his own accord, but he could have done it at a different time, so then it doesn't have a status of a Ma'aseh Shabbos, because that's not considered that he's doing it for you. He could have done it. But just hold off for a moment. Let me just get started first. By a guy, we have an haga that a guy, the halacha is that if he would have, let's say the guy didn't have to bring it now, he could have done it before Shabbos, and he's doing it for his own convenience. Like, for example, you have a car that you bring to the auto mechanic, the guy, and you bring it to him, you tell him, okay, I want it back Sunday morning. You tell him I want it back Sunday morning, and you brought it to him Shabbos afternoon. It takes him, let's say, 2 hours to fix the car. It doesn't take him more than 2 hours to fix the car, but it takes him 2 hours. So Maisa, you bring it to him 2 hours before Shabbos, 2 hours before Shabbos, and he's closed on Motzei Shabbos, right? An hour before Shabbos, and he's closed. It's a normal case. People want their car till as late as possible. So Motzei Shabbos, he's not working. So if it's taking him 2 hours, 3 hours to fix his car, he's going to be fixing it on Shabbos. So, but Sunday morning, you need my car. It's the first thing Sunday morning. So that's when we learned the Mishnah Berurah back then in Mir L'Akum. We saw the Mishnah Berurah's makel in this case, because the fact that he doesn't work on Motzei Shabbos, that's his own prerogative. It's on his own accord that he doesn't work on Motzei Shabbos. But you said your Amir L'Akum, you didn't tell him to go and work on Shabbos. The Mishnah Berurah in Meish Mem Dalet is mashma. I think it was the Sikot and Chaltes, Siflamid over there. Mishnah Berurah is mashma. If I don't tell him, or if I'm not requiring him to work on Shabbos, by his own prerogative, because he wants to have off on Motzei Shabbos, and he decides to do it on Shabbos, that's on his own accord. So maybe it's the same thing with the bus. If the bus would be an Arab cab driver, so then maybe it's stuck at the same thing. He didn't have to bring it now. He could have brought it when? When could he have brought it? Could have brought it before Shabbos, right? Yeah, the only thing is that that's not true, because the Eged buses aren't owned by the drivers, and the Eged buses are not allowed. He's not allowed to go and take the bus. There's only a certain amount of days. There's only a certain amount of time, so he'd have to come. And they tell him, you can't just take this bus. They're afraid he's going to go and take this bus if he's an Arab to his friends in Jenin and Ramallah, and then he'll fill it up with all of his Arab friends, and they'll smoke pot in there the whole time. He doesn't want that. So they tell you, listen, you come, you get the car. So I don't know if that would help us, but Venus We're anyways, we're not talking about a guy now. We're talking about Yisrael. So what's the din of Yisrael? So the mice, yesterday, we have a lot to don over here. We have a lot to don. This fellow, he takes the car. When did he come? So if he drove mamish bevadai on Shabbos, so now we have a shayla of a mice Shabbos. Let's say he drove bevadai 10 minutes before Shkia, or whatever. He comes, mice Shabbos is vadai, or even a few minutes after Shkia. Mishabura says mefurish in Siman Reish Samach Aleph, on Ben Hashmashis, there is an isser of mice Shabbos. Why? It's a suffix. You don't know if it's Shabbos or not Shabbos. Mishra says it doesn't matter if it's a suffix, but everyone agrees that it is usher. It's a suffix deraisa l'chumra. You have to bring an ashim tali. There's no question that ben hashmashis you're not allowed to do malacha. The reason you're not allowed to do malacha is because of lack of knowledge. But who cares? This has nothing to do with what we're going to see in a moment. That when you have a suffix plugsta, some say mutter and some say usher, that there might not be a ma'aseh Shabbos. Here, everybody says it's usher. So since everybody says it's usher, of course, ben hashmashis, you're not allowed to do malacha. We'll see which ben hashmashis, whatever. But certainly, the first few minutes after shkia, everyone agrees, no question, is usher to be doing malacha. There's an issa deraisa to be doing malacha. So the night bezai, there's a ma'aseh Shabbos. So let's say this person, he brought the bus 5 minutes before shkia, or 5 minutes after shkia for that matter. So now we have a ma'aseh Shabbos. So if he'd be a guy, we'd have to wait kadei shiasa. The amount of time, you're not going to benefit over here. So the amount of time that it would take to get the bus from one side of Yerushalayim, from the bus parking lot over here. And don't forget, he took it on Shabbos when there was no traffic. And Mashain came, now on Shabbos is already Motzei Shabbos is traffic. So let's say it takes 13 minutes to get here when there's no traffic, but it takes 27 minutes to get here when there's traffic. So you'd have to wait 27 minutes, theoretically. That's if he's a guy. Just one moment, we'll see. It's not so Pasha Tol Shaila in a minute, but this is the Shaila. So therefore, do you have to wait 27 minutes for the first bus? You won't be able to take that. And a lot of people, they have done hugger like this. They say, look, I wait a certain amount of time for Motzei Shabbos. But that's when I'm doing the malacha. Getting on a bus in the first place, it's not so clear exactly what the issue is of getting on a bus, especially if you're not paying. Is it? It's maybe a zilzal, it's maybe something, what's the issue is not so clear. I'm not saying you should do this, but it's obviously, there's some kind of an issue, but it's obviously not so clear. There's no, I'm not matter. I'll get the earliest time of Motzei Shabbos, whatever the earliest time is, 35 minutes, whatever. He takes the earliest time of Motzei Shabbos, Klape buses, he takes the bus. So now, but maybe he has to wait, and then he's going to miss the first bus, and the second bus is already not free. Already the second bus, nobody says is free. So the night is sorry, except for Zevi Singer. Sorry, but to most people, sorry. Yeah. They tell you what? He's got mamish like different poiskim that drive the Egged buses now. This sheet the haltzach taka. Ain't of us geit nicht mit wallet on shop. What if you're a friar? So then you do have to pay. Like that. I'm just saying, but he's nervous about taking. By the second bus, he feels guilty already. By the second bus, he's also afraid he'll get that bus driver. The second bus driver can say, no, Vadi, you have to pay. So that's the shayla. That's the shayla. That's right. No, the ma'isa by a yid, if the yid is driving the bus. So now we saw yesterday many tzadim that. Maybe on Shabbos this bus theoretically would be aser, but what's our need? And our need is kadesh yas. It's already after Shabbos. What's the most will make this driver? The most will make the driver. Let's say he's a mummer, loini mummer, mamish, amazing. Let's make him into somebody that kicked the Yiddishkeit. He kicked because he decided yeshiva is not for me. I could be an Egged bus driver. What am I wasting my days in yeshiva for? And whatever. And he kicked the Yiddishkeit, right? And he decided to become an Egged bus driver. Okay. Now here he is driving the Egged bus. B'mezid, Motzei Shabbos comes. So now, let's see. We'll see in Mitzvah Shem, this might be considered what's called lacherim, but it gets complicated because we have to discuss lacherim because here he did the malacha for those people, but maybe he didn't do it for any specific people. But this Gans find it sad to say that this is acherim, mezid, Motzei Shabbos, mezid acherim, Motzei Shabbos, bein according to Rabbi Yehuda, bein according to Rabbi Meir is mutter. According to Rabbi Meir, everything is mutter, Motzei Shabbos. Once you hit Motzei Shabbos, hakol mutter. According to Rabbi Yehuda, so then Mazid, even if it's Mazid, the worst case scenario, but if we can consider this case, which I have to hold off, it's difficult when you're doing Motzei Shabbos because you have to do all the sugars at once. But the Maisa, it's a very big shayla. This is called lacherim, or is this called the people that he did the malacha for? Okay, so maybe there's a tzad to say it's a Mazid, and maybe it's considered done for you, and then maybe that's why Yutaka would have to what? You'd have to ask the bus lamis. So this bus is also forever. What's going on here? I mean, what are we talking about? We're saying that by Yisrael, there's no Kadesh Yasu, quite possibly. We saw yesterday that the only way I could ask is, what do you want to do? You want to ask this bus forever so you can't take any Egged bus? Because maybe there was some malacha done in it, something doesn't sound right. And more so, first of all, we have to start him that he's a Tinuk Shnishba. Tinuk Shnishba might have a din of a shoygeg anyways, And we have stadim and sidate stadim. So what's tachlis? What's tachlis? So the first thing that has to really intrigue you is that question. What are we answering over here? Bishlamah, when there's a chicken, a schnitzel that's cooked on Shabbos. So, here comes Motzei Shabbos. You want to take your schnitzel and you want to make a nice bar mitzvah and a zaynis on it. You want to eat this schnitzel and you want to, you want to have the enough of this schnitzel, the pleasure of this schnitzel. So there's a chefza that we can answer. There's a discussion. This chefza, Shabbos was broken in this chefza. So the Chazal came along and knast this chefza. When did they knast it? Shoygeg, they knast it maybe on Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos is already, maybe they didn't knast the chefza, maybe they did. The Shaila, Mason, Shoygeg, but there's a chefza over here. Here, what's the chefza that the malacha was done in? The bus. What's the bus? The bus, there was a chil Shabbos. So if they made the bus on Shabbos, we could talk. But what they do, they ignited the fire. So that fire is gone from the world. Elamai, somehow we got the item from here to here. That's called in the poskim nishtana chayfetz. The chayfetz wasn't changed. Nothing occurred in the chayfetz. So it's a very big shot in the poskim if there's a knas in that item. Some poskim, we'll see. Mitzvah Shem. I told you it's hard to dan Ma'aseh Shabbos because we have to talk all at once. But some poskim say that in such a case there's no risk for Ma'aseh Shabbos b'chal, because Chazal, the knas was not just don't get hana from any grama of the Melech Shabbos. The knas was if something was done be'isr, that item is ne'asar. So over here, there's no item to oser. The bus is something that we can't aser the bus, and the fire is gone from the veld. This, I must tell you, is a fight, and I give myself the liberty of just now telling you the concept. And in Mitzvah Shem, we'll see how we pass them. It's definitely a fight. So it's definitely a tziruf. It's definitely a fight in the Paiskim. I'll give you examples of this in a moment, which when we get to the case. But it's definitely a big shaila in the Paiskim. So B'zai, what do you want? Here's Motzei Shabbos. This fellow is a tinuk shnashba, maybe he's a shaygig. This fellow, maybe there's no malacha, there's no bus to aser over here, there's no chefza to aser over here. Number two. Number three is that bichlal, it's yitachin that there's no kadesh yaseh bichlal on this person, like we explained, because the Yisrael maybe has no kadesh yaseh bichlal. Maybe there's no kadesh yaseh bichlal. And number four is like I told you yesterday, it's not so simple bichlal. This mitzias that everybody's talking about, that he's taka driving on Shabbos. It's very yitachin. I think the one by the Kaisel, Lehedja, they were Masader, that Lehedja doesn't leave until about 15 minutes after Shkia. I think Lehedja, they were Masader. No, 15 minutes after Shkia, according to many Paiskim, is certainly not Shabbos anymore. Okay, we don't do Malach at that point, but we're certainly not going to make a Ma'aseh Shabbos at that point. So this is why, Pashtis, by taking the bus from the Kaisel, you're going to be allowed to take the bus at the Kaisel blindly. You don't have to worry because you have a lot of cheshbainis over here. Number one is maybe the whole entire question is a shaygig. And once it's a shaygig, it's mutter motzei Shabbos. Maybe Taka, he has a din of it. Anyways, whoever this mummer is, he's Yisrael, that there's no kadesh yasu b'chlal. Anyways, and maybe there's no chayfetz to aser, and therefore you put this all together. It's ganz possible that there's no knas on taking the bus. What's fair? I'm coming again. But we spoke yesterday that maybe they never chazal, maybe never made a kadesh yasu. Sorry. Either because Chiloini maybe b'chlal on a mummer there's no kadesh yasu, because we saw it's too studded, right? It's kal be'enov, we don't have. Rabbi Yashiv is mekel, even on a mummer. On a tinuk shenashba, we have a bigger tzad that maybe it's tam b'chlal, maybe his whole metzias is a din of a shaygig, Yisrael b'shaygig, and that's it. Or no, we have a tzad to give him a din of a guy. But the Maisa, it's a shayla of a Ma'aseh Shabbos, a knas in a Ma'aseh Shabbos is a shayla and a drabanan. Rabbi Yashiv said, b'makom tzarich, it could be mekel. You put that together with the fact that I don't even have a chayfetz here to aser, and that maybe no iser was done. You don't even know if an Isser was done because maybe it was done taka 15 minutes after Shkia. You put that all together, you could easily take the bus, whether you have to pay or not. So Rabbi Singer, he's told us that he's going to try and find out for us. By Sunday, he'll find out for us exactly what's the story with the bus, if you have to pay or not. But that's for sure. Rabbi say, if the bus is free, then das is a tzayir. And then for sure we could be makel. Bus? Ask a local driver. Exactly. Sorry? Then who has to travel? No, that's for sure. Rabbi say, does zicher, stam say, Rabbi say, that you zicher have to remember. There's no shaila that we do not take into account that Nimrod had to travel. I forgot to tell you, Nimrod lives in, where's Nimrod lives? Where? Givat Zev. There's only from people there probably, no? The other one. Okay. Chiloini Givat Zev. Nimrod lives in Chiloini Givat Zev. He had to travel in on Shabbos in order to get the bus from the bus station. So why don't we ask? So what do you want to ask her? So you know what? So who are you going to ask? You're going to ask her Nimrod. His entire Metzias is one big Chil Shabbos, right? There's no Chefza there to ask, there's no Gabra, there's no nothing there to ask. So that for sure we don't ask. Now, by the way, don't get confused. I was speaking yesterday to one of the Talmidei Chachamim here. He got a little confused. Don't, I'm just talking about the Knas. I'm talking about the Rabbi said there's no Shaila that what happens, am I allowed now, based on all this? So I'm going to tell someone I need a cab the second day after Shabbos. You for sure can't do that. That for sure not. Why are you going to be allowed to take that cab from a Jew, let's say, even from a guy is a shtickle Shaila? But we'll see why in a month. From a guy is a shtickle Shaila, I tell a guy, I need you here the second day after Shabbos. So are you over on Amir La'akim? He's going to be there the second day after Shabbos. First second, I have a plane I have to catch and whatever. I need you to drive me to the Mediterranean Sea. Whatever, right? I need the first plane after Shabbos, right? So I need you to be here. So there, by Amir La'akim, there's a whole shayla. Do we say, listen, he could have just left his car right here. So he's doing it for himself. That's not called he's doing for me. That's all very nice shmooze. By Amir La'akim, Yishladin, maybe yeah, maybe nish, Yishladin. Okay, but Mashayin came when you're dealing with Israel. So we're not dealing with as far as Amir La'akim, as far as is he doing it for me, is he doing it for him? Israel there's a simple thing called called Lifnei Iver, or Messiah Levar. The simple Lifnei Iver over here. If you tell him you'll have a job, if you show up with your cab, Motzei Shabbos the second day after Shabbos, so you're telling me, yeah, but he doesn't have to, and that's very nice. Yeah, but you're certainly being machshel him. It's no shayla. Maybe it's not a Lifnei Iver deraisa. I gotta think it might be deraisa. Maybe it's a mistake. It's something evil. You're not allowed to do it. You certainly can't tell this Jew, be here the second day after Shabbos when you know he's not going to be here after Shabbos. Oh, but what do you mean? He could have left his car over here and he could have walked back to Tel Aviv. So that's ridiculous. Those svaras are shaychus l'gabei a goy. Now, what happens? You're listening to a shir on this on Shabbos, and the Rav tells you you're not allowed to do this. So now it shows up Nimrod, Motzei Shabbos with the car. That's mamash our shayla. That's our shayla, right? And he zikr drove on Shabbos. So we don't have that sarfik anymore. That's here anymore. Okay, after everything you heard over here, so then there might be a makom to be makel because there's no chayfetz that was nishtana and. We're not going to ask the chayfetz because there's no chayfetz, and maybe there's no din of kadesh yasu when it comes to a Yisrael bichlal, and maybe he has the whole metzias of a shoygeg. I'll be moisif. Maybe he's mamish a shoygeg. You're the one that told him to do it, and so maybe he thought, I don't know, this guy, maybe he knows better than me. He knows already that all, I once got into a cab with a driver. He told me that I know that you're the last person that I'm allowed to drive. You're the last person I'm allowed to drive because Taka, it's already coming close to Shabbos. So you know that. So so I asked, you're Shomer Shabbos. He didn't look like a Shomer. No, I'm not a Shomer Shabbos. I'm not a Shomer Shabbos. But I know you're the last person I'm allowed to drive. He's not a Shomer Shabbos. So for himself, he drives, but he knows that the from people don't let him drive it, right? Except for Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, but Al Kaponim, he knows you're not allowed. So I'm saying, so he thinks if this guy's telling me he knows halacha better than me, so therefore you're certainly not allowed to do that because that's an avera of Lifnei Iver. If you're paying him money to be here, Motzei Shabbos, then you're certainly open to that. Is that crystal clear before I got weiter? Because yesterday somebody was misupik about that. Sorry? Excuse me? Yeah. So you have to know, I don't know how bad an Aveira it is. I'm still in the Chidaz Vidui, but there's 45 pages there, right? But I don't know how bad an Aveira it is to get a cab 10 minutes before Shkia, already you should be Makabal Shkia. You don't mean that, right? What's main stuff? You mean like 20 minutes? 20 minutes, right? It means like 20. Oh, you mean like that? You mean, you get into this cab and he tells you, ooh, Gavaldik, because I want to get home to Haifa. So, you're my last, that's not going to work because that's too far. But let's say, you're where? Malaya Dumim. Okay, so for sure that he's getting there after Shkia and whatever. So you're allowed to take him because he's going this way and Malaya Dumim is that way and you're taking him. Is that a problem of Lifnei Iver? So I'm not convinced. Listen, I'm not saying it might be all the sugis we're talking about today. There could be something greater, like Chil Hashem. It could be a Chil Hashem over here. If the Frum are all taking buses that are being, driven on Shabbos, it could be a Chil Hashem. And that's not a shayla for me to dan. That's a shayla for bigger people to dan. And you have to know if that's called a Chil Hashem or not. I don't know. But Al Kaponim, here you have a shayla. Is this Pashat Lifnei Iver? I'm taking this cab, and then 20 minutes from now he's going to be driving on Shabbos as a result of me. That Lifnei Iver. So I'm not convinced. I'll tell you why. Because Tachlis, we keep on talking about Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam was gepaskin by 180 Pesachim Rishayim and Achreinim, and not the chveis like the Maram Hugi Dugi that nobody ever heard of, right? It's gepaskin by the Shulchan Aruch. You heard of the Shulchan Aruch? You heard of Shulchan Aruch? It's gepaskin like the Mogen Avram. It's gepaskin by the Ramah. It's Gepaskin. The Mishnah Berurah has a big tzad that's psak halacha. It's Gepaskin by all the poskim paskin like this, and so the Rabbeinu Tam is a real shita. We're machmir, like the shita of the goyin, the shach, the goyin, and we're machmir. But that means that according to Rabbeinu Tam, he's got 58 and a half minutes that he's still allowed to drive. So I don't think this is beautiful, and I don't think this is wonderful, but Akapanim Tzizugin, das ist taka lifnei iver, as Matana Zogin. You can't say that such a thing is called lifnei iver. I'm being machshalim. Who says I'm being machshalim when, okay, so you get down in Eretz Yisrael, they're much more anti-Rabbeinu Tam and whatever, but to call it a lifnei iver, I feel that's a bit aggressive. Again, that most of the Sfarim, that's what they say. But, what goes on here stays here, Rabbi say. If you go and tell all your Belzers, I'm gonna deny it, right? But, sorry? But say that, but you can't call it lifnei iver. What? Okay, so that gets a point where it could be lifnei iver. About it gets a point. It gets a point. If he gets into the car and says, okay, you know what? You'll be my last thing, and then I'm going to get to, it works out perfectly. I'm going to get there right after Rabbeinu Tam, just in time for the Fabrengen or whatever. So, it could be. It could certainly be a lifnei iver. Grado. Okay, yeah, say that. I'm saying that's his l'chayr. Okay, so that's the l'chayr. Sorry? How far do we stretch? What? Is it Yossi? Thank you, Yossi. It's good. Thank you. What? You also haven't bought me one in 30 years. Right? What do you want to ask? Yeah. That's mitzad Amir Lakum, mitzad Yisrael. If you're asking mitzad Amir Lakum, it's a very big shaila. We discussed it in Amir Lakum. It's a big arichas. How much do we stretch something that it's so far-fetched and so mufka he's not going to do? But by Yisrael, it's machdish tois. Because by Yisrael, what? Yeah, I'm saying, so that's the question. How far-fetched do we say that the guy could have left my cab driver, right? My goyish cab driver, he could have sat here the whole entire Shabbos. Do we say that that's ridiculous? And okay, so that's, I'm not convinced because we're dealing with Amir al-Akim. I did not tell him to do a malacha. He decided himself to do it. That's why there's much more leeway possibly. We're trying to figure out, did you do Amir al-Akim? Did you tell him? Okay, I'm not convinced. Akapanim, that's l'chayr. Okay, is that clear, by say? We can get right. There's a tachlis. To take the bus. Is it a chila Hashem or not? I don't know. Later, maybe. Again, in the bus case by the Kaisel, it's not sin again. Now, Rabbi Lieberman pointed out. I talked about over here in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. You have cases where the bus is coming from Tiberia, and somehow it gets here miyad on Motzei Shabbos. They're the only svars that you have to take that bus, etc. The person taking a bus to Veria goes derech Hafula, I think the case is. Where is my friend DJ? Right? It goes derech Hafula, I think was the story. Haifa, and it goes derech what? And you wanted to pick it up, like, where were you over there? By Chai or something, whatever. So he wants to pick up the bus is on its way down from Tiberias, right? So that bus, Zicher went on Shabbos. And that bus has been driving for the last hour on Shabbos. Okay, so now you get involved in a very serious shiloh. That's a very serious shiloh. And if it's even al yedei goy, it's even worse. Because there for sure there's a Kadesh Yasin, he's doing it for Jews in Israel. So that's much worse. The only svar you have over there is the svar that we're saying that there's no chayfetz to aser, which by Amir Lakim, for whatever reason, doesn't apply. But by Yisrael, ironically, it's better. There's no aser, there's no knas in the Ma'aseh Shabbos. But upon him, that's a much bigger shayla. Okay, so now, Baisai, let me tell you one last shayla. Now we'll start. Let's talk tachlis here. So somebody came to shul, and in his pocket were tissues. Okay, in his pocket were tissues. No, the Maisa, he didn't realize it. So what was the over on? So Chaim Soloveitchik, somebody once came to Chaim Soloveitchik and he told him for 2 years he carried around, I don't know, it was tissues or whatever, but he carried around something in his pocket. So what should be his tshuva, tikunei tshuva? So Chaim Soloveitchik says, "Taka mamish geferlich." You're mamish for 2 years. You're over on the takana, the rabbanon, chayiv adam l'mashmesh kisai erev Shabbos. He has to check his pockets erev Shabbos. He says, no, but what about mitzad Shabbos? What was I over? He says, no, mitzad Shabbos is taka misasik. You have no idea b'chlal that there's anything in your pocket. That's not. He didn't forget it's Shabbos. He remembers it's Shabbos, and he doesn't forget that it says aser. He knows that it says aser. So what's that called? That's called misasik. Misasik is a lower level klape the realm of mezid, There's Mezid, that's Mezid. Then there's a Pasheya. Then there's Shoigeg Chatis. Then there's somebody who's a Misasik. Misasik means that I didn't forget Shabbos. I'm totally aware of Shabbos. I didn't forget the Malachas. I know all 39 Malachas. Just, I didn't know I was doing the Malacha B'chlal. So that's called Misasik. Misasik is potter from a Chatis. But Afal Pikein, Misasik is Aser. What does it mean Misasik is Aser? What do you mean Misasik is Aser? If I would know I was doing it, I wouldn't do it. I mean, what does it mean Misasik is Aser? So Rabbi Kiveger brings a Taisis in Shabbos Tafid Aleph. Misasik Aser means that you can't be machshel. I'll give you examples, right? But misasik means you can't be machshel somebody else to do misasik. Like machshel, you know that the light is on in the fridge. You know the light's on in the fridge. So you tell him this, so you can't open the fridge. He's going to open the fridge. He knows it's usher to turn on lights. He knows it's Shabbos. So what is? He's a misasik. So you say, could you take out the wine for me? So what did you do over there? You did nothing, right? It's a lifnei iver on what? He's not doing anything. So that's what Kiveger says, that Chazal made an issa d'Rabbanan. There's an issa d'Rabbanan on a misasik, which means that you have to prevent another Jew from doing it. It's not our sugi now, but I'm just giving you an example of where it would apply. Okay, this Jew walked the shul on Shabbos. He has tissues in his pocket. He totally knows you're not allowed to carry. He's very careful. He doesn't carry b'chlal, right? He's very, very careful. And he knows that Shabbos, he doesn't wear gloves on Shabbos. He doesn't wear a hat on Shabbos because he might come to carry. He doesn't wear a mask on Shabbos because he doesn't wear a mask during the week either because he might come to wear it on Shabbos. Kids are Alamailis, right? You know, people in glass houses should throw stones, right? But upon him, he knows the Maisa, he doesn't get. So what happened here? He brought tissues, he comes to shul, he sneezes, and now he looks around and he sees there's no tissues, right? And then, hey, look at that, I got a tissue in my pocket. Is he allowed to use that tissue? Is he allowed to use that tissue, or does he have to use the mask like everybody else, right? Is he allowed to use that tissue? Right? You always, you poor guy, you're behind you, davening, you have to hear hachu here. So does he have to suffer like that poor Nebuch? Does he have to suffer like that guy? Or can he use the tissue? What's a shaila? So if he'd been mazid, brought these tissues to shul, let's say been mazid, he brought these tissues to shul, what would be the halacha? So first it would be also on Shabbos. We'll see. There's no shinu in the chefts over here. It's not so posh, but there's no Bain Rabbi Yehudi did the Mazid. So on Shabbos would be also, we're on Shabbos now. Elamai, let's say he'd be Shoigeg. So Shoigeg, Lemaisa, Rabbi Meir is Mekel. It's true. But Rabbi Yehuda holds these tissues, Pashtis are Aser. Rabbi Yehuda holds these tissues are Aser. Elamai, you're going to tell me, but the Mishabura said it could be Mekel, B'Makim Tzarech. Okay, so let's say it's true. The example I gave is probably a Makim Tzarech. And therefore you'd be able to be Mekel to use these tissues. No matter what, before you don't even have to don the Shaila, right? Because whatever the Shaila is, he brought these tissues. He was over on Chil Shabbos of a misasik or whatever you want to call it. But for it, safe. It's a tzarech. He needs tissues. So we'll be makel. He could use those tissues. But let's say it's not. He has in his pocket the fluffy ones. They're like the fluffy ones, the ones that they can make into like a parachute, like the fluffy ones. On the shul, Nisht Alamo, the shul has the fluffy ones. Sometimes they have the what's it called, sandpaper, right? Paper sand ones, you know what I mean? Those ones, oy gewalt, it rips off fast. He doesn't have to sneeze anymore, right? So, he has a gewaltige nose job after he uses these, right? And sometimes they have the ones that halavai sandpaper. Halavai. Sometimes they have the one that you look at the first one, suffix used, suffix not used, right? Vada used, right? So now, but let's say, is that, what's that? You could get along with those tissues, Rabbi say. The rest of the shul did get along with those tissues, right? So is that enough already of a tzoyrich that Rabbi Meir will say, we saw what Rabbi Yashiv told us. Rabbi Yashiv told us that be'ikar we paskin, like Rabbi Yehuda, on Shabbos these tissues are aser. Elamai, if it's mamish and tzoyrich, you don't have tissues. He didn't even give us cholent. Rabbi said, if he's not giving us cholent, then you're using sandpaper, okay? So what's lemaisa? What's lemaisa? Look, you can't use those tissues. So is there anything that we could say, maybe which broke the rules? That's kafi. If you were in this room until today, what you would have come out. Mitzad Mezid, he wasn't Mezid. Mitzad Shoigig, so Shoigig, Meir, no, I don't know if this is enough of a tzayir. So we have to be make all these tissues. So what's a Shoigig? He's not Mezid, he's not Shoigig, he's something new. He's called Misasik. Now, I know it's hard to don the Shaila because you already know one of the secrets. One of the secrets is that the Bir Halacha brings down in Simchin Yates that over here, nothing changed in the Chayfetz. And the Rabbeinu Yoina, the Chayadim, brings down that maybe we only made a knas when Chazal said that schnitzel they asered. because a Melechus Shabbos was done in that schnitzel. But what about when I go from Rishus to Rishus, and I take it from one place to another place, so do we answer that chefza? Do we answer the tissue? There's no chefza of a tissue to answer. So the Bir Halacha brings it sad like this. But again, I'll just tell you straight, it's not 100% this shayla. It's a shayla. It's a suffix. So we still have to down the shayla. So, if it would be b'mezid, it certainly wouldn't be pashit. Okay? But you know that we're getting there. Now already, number one, whatever it is, it's not worse than a shaygig. Okay, I'm just telling you that maybe shaygig you shouldn't be making. And number two, I'm telling you that there was no chayfetz that was changed over here, so there's no maybe knas inside this item, right? But the shayla is maybe a little bit more. Is there anything more in order that we could be makel more ruik? You could be a little bit more ruik to be makel. Sorry? Oh, so also misasek is true. Misasek is not a deraisa. No, it's true. Maisi is right. Misasek is most of misasek could be is taka drabanan, right? Most misasek could be is taka drabanan. Maybe tell this Gevaldik Kaya that there's a shear going on over here. Maybe you could find what? Sorry, he's just after chakras. Oh, you have to go and find him. Just follow the horn. Yeah. Sorry? What about Rosh Hashanah? Sorry? So if he's carrying in a Carmelis, so then the whole entire Shaila is the Gord Rabbanan. And if you say that most of our Rishuyas are, anyway, you close the door. Yeah? Oh, you found him? Is he okay? Okay. Al-Kapanim, if it's a Carmelis, so then it's a Drabanan. If we're dealing with a Drabanan, Rabbi Yisai, that we saw yesterday, Ma'aseh Shabbos Shoygig Drabanan is mutter. Ma'aseh Shabbos Shoygig Drabanan is mutter. That we saw yesterday. If he's mazed, so then you'd have to wait till Ma'aseh Shabbos. He's not mazed, this guy. Right? That you can't say, he's not even Shoygig, we're going to see. But and also, I'll say even more aggressive. Let's say, according to, it's a big shaila in the place, if this is considered a Rosh Hashanah or not. A lot of our Rosh Hashanah are maybe called Carmelises. So then you get involved again. You have a shaila about Ma'aseh Shabbos. Okay, but that's not going to help us over here because everyone agrees you're not allowed to do it. Everyone agrees that in a Rosh Hashanah you're not allowed to carry even if it's a Carmelis. The only question is if this is considered a Nissa Rabbanan or is it considered a Nissa Deraisa? So we can't really apply that svara. I'll explain that in a moment if you didn't have that. Mitzvah. Let me tell you a new tzad. What's the din of misasik? What's the din of misasik? So now, I must tell you what's misasik? This person's misasik. What's the din of Ma'aseh Shabbos when it comes to misasik? Now, it's interesting. What would you say? Everybody say, this guy's like an oinus. So the Kseisa Shulchan, the Kafachayim, they bring up this like an El Yerabah or something, that they say, oinus Rachmana Patre, there's no Ma'aseh Shabbos on an oinus. So what's a misasik? Is there any greater, he's pater from Chatis, right? So misasik is a good example of somebody, guy opens up the fridge, right? And no, my case, I don't have to go to the fridge. The guy is holding tissues in his pocket, okay? And he walks to shul. So what is he? He didn't know. He knows Shabbos. He knows the malacha. So what is he? He's an oinus. He's an oinus. Okay, he's not. Is he 100% oinus? He should have checked his pockets. Chazal made it to Kana to check his pockets, right? So now I'm telling you that the Kseisa Shulchan, the Kafachayim, they bring El Yerabah. Oinus Rachmana Patre means that there's no Isser Ma'aseh Shabbos. Okay, so what's the din of misasek? You think it's the same? Or do you think it's like shoygig? It's actually not amazing. So listen to this. First of all, the Chazon Ish once told somebody that you should sell your shoes to buy a minchas baruch. That means if you have only one pair of shoes, if you have two pairs, it's not even a shayla, right? But it does say you have one pair of shoes and you want to know, shoes or minchas baruch. Now the Gemara says you should sell everything, a baruch tam in the minchas baruch, it's the same Jew, right? So the baruch, Zerushav, right? So let's say you have, the Gemara says you're supposed to sell everything in order to have a pair of shoes. Sh'asali kol tzarki means what? That I have shoes. Because if you don't have shoes, you're walking around barefoot. It's a geferlich, right? So now, but let's say it comes a point where it's a choice of minchas baruch or shoes. Chazon Ish said, sell your shoes. Okay? It's important to know that. Because the minchas baruch over here, where was it in Siman Tes? The minchas baruch says, on a misasik, there is a knas. He has a din of a shoygig. What's he mean? We know misasik is not a shoygig. What does he mean? So he explains. He says, Rabbi said, what was the reason why Chazal made a knas of shoygig? Hooray, the fellow didn't do it on purpose. So what are you giving him a knas to deter him? He doesn't want to do it. He'll never do it again. He only did it b'shoygig. B'mezid, we gave a knas because we're trying to deter him. We don't want him to do it again. Why are you giving this fellow a knas if he's a shaygig? He's not going to do it again. He doesn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it the first time. The Torah says, the reason we give him a knas, the shita that we give a knas, the Rabbi Yehuda, is where kohen is shaygig got to amazing. Because you know what's going to happen? This Jew, he's going to come along and say, ooh, it's not my fault. The tissue man, he b'shoigig brought it, he thought it was Tuesday. Let's say that's, or the schnitzel case, whatever. He thought it was, no, let's make him amazing. He went and he cooked the schnitzel. He told me, no, Rabbi, what's wrong with you? You're not allowed to eat that schnitzel now. He says, oy, shoigig. Shoigig, I thought it was Tuesday. So he said, you know what? Kanzu shoigig got to amazing. Because everybody who's amazing is going to take bin a shoigig, and therefore, ma'u yilu chachamim b'takanasa. That's the idea. That's steht in the Gemara. Sagt the Minchas Baruch, so then also misasik is aser. Because I don't care if misasik is less. I don't care that misasik is not as a chomer to iser. I don't care that misasik is patur from korban. Over here, we're dealing with things that are not based on the logic. We're dealing with knosses that are up to this. So what's going to happen? He knows now, don't say you're a shaygig. If you say you're a shaygig, they're not going to let you eat that schnitzel. To say, you're not going to believe this, Taka. I knew it was Shabbos and I know cooking schnitzel's aser, but I thought that when you put that thing there, I didn't realize that was fire. Right? He's going to go and tiny, he's a misasik. So Bezai, they asked shaygig, atu, and they asked misasik, atu. Bezai, our friend with the tissue, sorry? We'll see in a moment. Our friend with the tissue. So now, are these tissues aser? Forgetting all the side stars that we spoke about. So these tissues should be shaygig, just like shaygig. Because what's he going to say? He has the tissues in shul. You're going to tell him, hey, what's going on over here? He brought it amazing. Nobody knows what's going on inside your pocket. So he comes, he says, hey, you with the tissues, you're not allowed to use the tissues. He said, you're not going to believe this. You don't think I know it's Shabbos. You don't think I know. Well, last month is Shabbos, I put it into my, you're right, I was over on the Takanat Rabbanon of Chayav Adam Lamashmesh Bekisai, Erev Shabbos. I was over on that, but what do you want from me? I knew it was Shabbos and I knew tissue carrying is aser, so I was a misasik. So Chazal said, no, you're not going to be able to use it even in misasik, in order that you shouldn't say such a dreadful raid. Crystal clear? Says the Minchas Baruch, who it's kedai to sell your shoes to buy a Minchas Baruch, okay? He says, therefore, misasik is also the same din, and it'll be the din. Basically, if you hold like Rabbi Yehuda, that you made a knas on shaygig, so then you're going to make a knas on misasik. If you hold like Rabbi Meir for shteitzach, there's not going to be a knas. As I say, we go back to the same shaila. Could he use the fluffier tissues? So if there's no tissues, we're going to be makel. But could you use the fluffier tissues? So now it's a little bit schwerer. Why? Because misasik tak is a din of shaygig. Okay, so now you have to be very, very brave and be willing to accept the svara that, number one, Reb Meir's makel, which I could hear. I'm not being mizalzel. Number one, Reb Meir's makel, even if it's shaygig. Number two, there was no shini in the chefza. So is there a makom to be makel? Maybe. Is there a makom to be machmir? Yes. But that's what comes out. Until now, we thought it was misasik. There's no makom bichlal to be machmir. It's misasik. Now, what's the difference between this and oinus that I'm telling you? The Shulchan, they bring down a case of an oinus. So the Maisa, you can't get out of what I'm saying. He's saying good. The Minchas Baruch says this. The Oini Yontif says the same thing. They're saying very good. I don't know how you can argue in this. It's a Peladik Amaisi. Look at all the kitzes farm. It's a little bit evil. Each one copied out of the other one. He writes like all the paiskim. So you look at all his paiskim. He writes ayin this. If you look that same, it's like it's going around and around. I don't know what happened over there. But they don't bring the Minchas Baruch. They don't bring Chmein the Oini Yontif. And the Minchas Baruch and the Oini Yontif are saying something which is Pashut Mistaber. I don't know an answer to this question. Sorry. Of course, I'm saying that, but obviously we're not going to Reb Meir. I'm saying we're obviously going to Reb Yehuda. No, Reb Meir doesn't hold of the entire knas. Reb Meir holds we don't knas shaygig got to mezit. So obviously we're not going to knas misasik got to mezit. But the fee this tzad that we are machmir for l'chatchila. Rabbi Yashiv told us the ikar psak is we're machmir on shaygig. So if we're machmir on shaygig, says the Minchas Baruch, there's no difference. We're machmir also on misasik. So nice that there's a makom to be machmir on the fluffy tissues. Now, what about oinus? Now, I could say that the Minchas Baruch argues on that too. Could be. Maisa, I'm not convinced. I saw that in a previous Gilgal. I said that the Minchas Baruch is arguing. I'm not convinced. If I say, if a person goes and he accidentally turns on the light, what do I mean he accidentally turned on the light? He leans back and the light goes on. All right? The light goes on. Let's say the light was off in the bathroom. And to his mazel, he leaned back and he leaned on the light. I don't mean, like accidentally. I mean, he accidentally leaned back on the light. So what's it does? That's also called misasik. But that misasik, Rabbi say, that's not a misasik of where there's any pshi at all. There's different levels of misasik. Okay, that misasik is a total oinus, we'll call it. I wonder out loud if in that case, are we going to say that there's Ma'aseh Shabbos? Why? That I know. You tell me. That case, well, no one's going to say, "Oh, you're not going to believe I fell on the light switch." Then you're going to see that's too obvious, right? The only time that you have the Minchas Baruch Svara is by Shoigeg, by Misasik. Sorry. The only time you have is when you have the Shoigeg, you have Misasik. So he's going to be able to claim I was a Misasik and no one's going to know. But where do you find that the person is unable to claim that based only if people saw him? Will say, he's going to say, "Oh, I fell on the light switch." You say, "Huh? So what are you talking about? We just watched you do it." So to me, it's pashke that the Minchas Baruch doesn't have to argue on the Shulchan. He doesn't have to argue on the El Rabbi. Doesn't have to argue. To me, it's pashke that everybody can agree over here. Oinus is, even though I saw different form, they bring it down. It's pashke. There's no shine over here. So I say, what's an nafkamina? Nafkamina is like this. Good. Is that crystal clear before I go weiter? Crystal clear. Okay. So nafkamina is like this. Nafkamina is there's that person Friday night. Right? You know that person. He walks into the bathroom. The bathroom light is off. The bathroom light is off. What does he do when the bathroom light is off? And he goes and he turns it on. Right? Turns it on. So now, what's the halacha? Is he allowed to use the toilet? No, he's not using the toilet for sure. But is he allowed to use the light? Does he have to close his eyes? How's he going to read? Right? Is he allowed to use the light? Right? Is he allowed to use the light in the toilet? No? Us? Or the next person, okay? Or the next person, are they allowed to use the light on Shabbos, right? So what is that when I accidentally turn on the light on Shabbos? I'm not talking about, the people that they sleepwalk mamish, the next day, I did that, I said that, right? Does anybody have little kindlech that sleepwalk is on? Very interesting thing, right? I have a daughter, maybe I shouldn't say, but she sleepwalks and she talks all types of conversation, right? Everything, right? I'm not asleep. She tells me, I'm not asleep. Mom yesterday, I'm not asleep. You're asleep, right? I'm not asleep. I'm totally not asleep. Totally not asleep. Where are we? Why are we here? What are we doing here? Right? All types of words, all types of conversations. You tell her in the morning, remember? What? I said that. I did that. Some people out cold. She's totally out cold. They got me. Some people, right? Some people during the daytime are like that. I mean, that's how it goes. Right? But I'm not talking about that. That case, that's a real oinus. So I'll tell you that case. Somebody's totally sleeping. Totally sleeping. Somehow they got from here, they got to the bathroom. Some people, that's how it goes. Right? I know somebody, it was a bacher. One of these yeshivas, this bacher, it's a story. They found him in the yeshiva over there. Right? They found him on a bench. Next morning, they wake up, they know where the bacher, right? They found him on a bench all the way down on Sorotsky. Right? He's lying on the bench sleeping. Look, people walking past him. Bacher, he sleep till 9:45 in the morning on Sorotsky with buses and everything, right? He woke up, he had no idea, right? No idea. How did he get from here to there? And it wasn't Purim, Rabbi said. There are people like that. I'm not talking about that guy, okay? But I'm talking about the guy. What's the word? He goes and he's asleep, he's awake, and he turns on the light because he's not thinking. He's not thinking. What's that? Is that misasik? And Grada, even if it's misasik, the fee what we're hearing today, it's not going to help us that much, right? Is that misasik? But it's not important to know. Does he have to do tshuva? Kum Yom Kippur, does he have to do tshuva for misasik or for shoygig? Shoygig is much worse. So what do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Rabbi say, when you daven, there's a big machlekes Reb Chaim and the Chazanish. It's tremendous machlekes. The machlekes, it's the first Reb Chaim and say for everybody, had that desire once. I'm going to learn all the Reb Chaims. He took on a Shabbos afternoon, and he got to the first one, then he got to the second one, then he got ready to the Erev, and then he stopped. Right? But the first Reb Chaim, everybody did. In the first Reb Chaim says that if you are misasik during tefillah, you mamish, you start daydreaming and you start thinking about like this and that, and I hope it's not going to be so hot in the kollel today, and whatever. And why does he have that stupid glass thing anyways? It doesn't do anyway. And then where all of a sudden you hear him say, "Where am I? What the world's going on here?" Right? So that's called misasik. What's the din? Reb Chaim Soloveitchik b'das the Rambam. I'm not going into all the diukim, but Reb Chaim Soloveitchik b'das the Rambam, his shita is you're not Yotzei davening. You have to have kavanah in every word in the first bracha, and from the second bracha on, you have to be davening. You have to at least be oimid l'fnei hamelech. But if you're oimid b'fnei hashnitzel, so then that's not considered gedavet. Okay? That's Reb Chaim. Comes again the Chazanish, and the Chazanish argues. The Chazanish says, "What? Then you're telling me that a lot of people aren't Yotzei davening? He doesn't like it. Not only that, he brings a Yerushalmi in Brachas. Yerushalmi in Brachas, Rabbi Yochanan says we have to have Hakaras HaToiv to our heads. Why do we have to have Hakaras HaToiv to our heads? Because there we are in the middle of Shemoneh Esrei, and then, he's over here, he's over there. All of a sudden, the head goes, why am I down? So we have to have Hakaras HaToiv to our heads. And cup, because of the cup, now we realize where we are. So we have to have Hakaras HaToiv to our heads. So Frekte Chazaynish, Rabbi Yochanan wasn't Yaitei Shemoneh Esrei. So what Zok the Chazanish Yisai? He says, if you would tap him on the shoulder, let's say this guy was davening, you tap him on the shoulder and you start, hey, you want to hear something? Sugar, middle of davening, sugar. No, I want to just tell you something. You want to catch up on that schnitzel that you're thinking about? You're crazy. You're going, you look at you like, so what's that? That's called subconscious das. Subconscious das. That the pshat is that if you tap him, he knows where he is. You understand? That's called, that is a level of Oymid B'fnei Al-Melech. It's not, it's sort of Oymid B'fnei Al-Melech. It's like Yoshev B'fnei Al-Melech. So that's also considered, that's not called misasik. The Chazanish says that's not called misasik. I just wonder out loud if when you walk into a bathroom on a Friday night and you accidentally turn on the light, not the sleepwalker, I don't mean that guy, but the guy who's like, he just totally forgot and he does his normal hergel. That's how the Paiskim done this case. He did his normal hergel. What's the din of the person that did his normal hergel? He's like, if you would tap him on the shoulder and say, what is today? He would say Shabbos, right? But what happened? Nobody tapped him on the shoulder, so he just did his normal hergel. So what's that? What is that? It's a level of it's a misasik. It's not an oyinus, I don't think. Sorry? So that's the raya. That's the raya. Rabbi Spitz says the raya is the second after he does it, he looks around. Koi b'koi. Next morning he says, who turned on the light? I thought it was off before Shabbos. But he's right. The second after he does it, he chaps. What's that? That's mamish. That shows that underlying there's a knowledge over here. So what's that? That's hergel. You know what that's called? So there's a Gemara about this. There's a Gemara Mefreshes in Shabbos that says the status this. There was a great Jew. His name was Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. What does he say over there? Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Yeah, Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, I think it was. Gemara says over there, I don't need the Gzeira of Chazal not to read by your light. Because I'm not going to read by the light. I'm not going to tip the oil anyways. These things won't happen. There he was learning up Shittas Rabbi Shmuel. And what happened while he was learning, he tipped the light and he caused the oil to burn and whatever. So he said, when the Beis HaMikdash will be built, I'll have to bring a Chatas Shmeina. Why Chatas Shmeina? Number one, he was over on Mavir. Right? He was over on Avodah. So over on Avodah, he has to bring Chatas. Why a big fat one? Because he was also over on the Tekkonas Chazal. The Tekkonas Chazal was, you're not allowed to read by the light because you're going to do it. No, Frekte V'Yashiv. What do you want? It's like I'm in the sugya. He thought it was Tuesday. He was just, what was that? He was sitting and learning like this, right? There he was with the Rashba, and he was reading, and he just went like this. He went like this. What's that called? That's called, you forgot it's Shabbos. He's just doing his hergel. He's totally not thinking. And the second afterward, he went, right? So what do you see? That is called, you forgot Shabbos. That's called shaygig. So they asked Rabbi Yashiv, what's the din of somebody who accidentally turned on the light on Friday night? Not that he was sleepwalking, but that he accidentally turned on the light. He wasn't thinking. Rabbi Yashiv said, when the Beis HaMikdash will be built, he has to bring a Chatas Shmeina. That's how he wrote it. He wrote back there, he has to bring a Chatas Shmeina. Obviously, he was referring to this Gemara. Thus, that's exactly. What do you say? Okay. You mean, no, so Stam asked a question. Why didn't it Shmeina? There was no Tekkonas Chazal. Yeah, okay, Stam. Why did Rabbi Yashi say Shmeina? He say Shmeina. Our Kapanim Klape our sugya, he's a shaygig. Our Kapanim Klape our sugya here. It's interesting. Why is it a Shmeina? Why is it a Shmeina? It's true. Shmeina was outstanding. All right. Rabbi Isai, there's a Chasam Sofer who says a different pshat in Chatas Shmeina. Should I tell you that pshat? The Chasam Sofer says that the pshat in Chatas Shmeina is for a whole different reason. Because he says, Rabbi Shmuel's Shita, I didn't plan on talking about that. I think it's in Taisis Rosh and Yevamis and Zayin also says this. Chaim Sefer says this. They say that there's a machlekes if Havara is lalav yatzis or if it's for a chatis. The whole shaila if Havara is a lav or a chatis. Everyone knows machlekes Rabbi Yossi. So he says Rabbi Shmuel's sheet is Havara is a lav. So what was he over on Bechlal? What was he over on Bechlal? He wasn't over on a chatis. He was over on a lav. Why does he have to bring a chatis? He says yeah, but he's over on bishul. He's over on bishul because he made the oil get cooked, and that's some sefer proves that bishul ibud is called a bishul. Look, that's the ma'asim. So he says, he's over on chatis of bishul, but he has to bring a big fat chatis because it was also over on avar. So avar l'lav. No, so here also, what was he over on? First of all, he's over on electricity, which is maybe derabana, maybe what. But also the second thing, he was emitted electric current, which is all. And also he has to bring a chatis because he was also over on making a metal hot piece of metal turned red, which is either havara or bishul or both. So bringing a chatis shmein, and now you're happy. Okay, you got some sefer, so you're happy. Boss? Yeah. No, he's doing his hergel. The place can say this is called you're doing your hergel. Doing an action. What's that called? That's called not realizing it's Shabbos. It's called you think it's Tuesday. Your hergel is Tuesday. That's not called misasik. That's not called this misasik. Vas? He's doing his hergel. But going to the toilet is definitely his hergel, right? He's going to the toilet. He's not thinking, and he turns on. I'm not talking about that. He's just not thinking, and he goes to the bathroom. The lights are off. He turns it on. He doesn't think. The regular, I don't have to make the case on Friday night in the middle of the night. When he's sleeping. Stop. If shut is that's what happens. The person goes to the bathroom, sees the lights off, he doesn't think, and he turns it on. What's it there? The Ash is saying that that's not called misasik. Because you forgot it's Shabbos. What do you mean? I didn't forget Shabbos. I know it's Shabbos. I'm wearing my tie. I'm wearing my suit. I know it's Shabbos. What's the answer? The answer is no. That's called doing your hergel is a level of bechina of not realizing it's Shabbos. And that's a shaygig. That's a chatis. But that doesn't bring it back a chatis. Come again? Yeah. Pressing your alarm what? Okay, if he's fast asleep, he doesn't even know that. If the guy wakes up and says, did the alarm go? I'm not talking about that guy. I'm talking about when the guy presses it, he presses the button. That's a good example. That's a good example. That's a good example. Now, sorry? Come again? Now let it go. But wait, so what about the toilet, Tachlis? Tachlis, is he allowed to use the toilet? So let's see. It's a shoygig. Rabbi said the light in the toilet. Would you tell this person? I would tell this person, is it a tzarech? If he has another bathroom with a light, let him use the other bathroom. What? If there's a window, fine. What? I'm saying in general, the rest of Shabbos, because we use this bathroom with light. Also, okay, and no, I mean, we all agree that if this is the only bathroom in the house, right? So then there's a very big tzarech in using a bathroom with a light. If you would like, I'll explain it to you after this year. But there's a very big tzarech in using a bathroom with light. The fact that he would have done it without is not a raya that it's not a tzarech, okay? So certainly, if this is the only bathroom in the house, right? And when he turns it on, you hear him say, yeah, right? So then, Ichman will let him use the light because it will be Samech or a mayor, right? But without that, my point is to tell you, Rabbi Isai, is number one, don't think it's misasik. Number two, even if it is misasik, it's not going to help you because we're going to make the knas of misasik of kindness shaygig to Mesa. That's the Now, Mesa, I'll be Messiah. It's already spät already. Let me just tell you one last thing over here. Is that so somebody said there's a beer halacha not like this. There's a beer halacha not like this. Where's the beer halacha? The beer halacha is in Hilchos Seido. The beer halacha is in Siman Shintas Zayin. Over here in Sif Hay. Just tell me if the beer halacha is not like this. Is the beer halacha not like this? Tachlis, what comes out to there by Isai? To use the tissues if you have no other tissues, for sure we're going to be makel. That for sure. It's not worse than a shaygig and shaygig with sayrich. There's no shayla. Right? To use the tissues when there's fluffier tissue, your tissues are fluffier. It's okay. So now, in l'chayra, there's a makom to be machmir. There's a makom to be makel. I would probably be machmir because why get involved in the shayla? Rabbi Yehuda would tell you it's no good. You're getting involved in the shtanachim. If somebody tells me I want these tissues and they give me, my nose is going to get all red and it's going to be a shayla chayvul b'Shabbos and whatever, and it's my yoinik Shabbos, so fine, I'm going to be makel because safe, it's not worse than a shaygig. And second of all, it's also not worse than a shaygig, but also it's not nishtana chefetz. Okay, the toilet in the bathroom, are we going to let him use? So again, like we said, it's a shoygig. He has a din of a shoygig. It doesn't have a din of anything. We explained it's a misasik. It's a shoygig at least, and he's not a misasik. So you have to dan if it's called a tzarich. If he has no other bathroom and this is the only one, so then the stomach will be mekel. Mashenkin, if he has a different bathroom, let him use a different bathroom with the light during the daytime. He's not getting a no, so that would also be okay. Is that clear? Sorry. That's a good child. Let's say someone's in the other bathroom. So we're going to say that's already l'chayr called the tzarech because it's a problem about the shaksu, right? Sorry? Yeah, it depends. Sometimes you have that guy, like, sometimes you have that kid, runs in off the bus, boom, you have to open up the door, and you have, boom, right in the ear, and you're, oh, oops, didn't quite make it, So that's how it goes. Then that person is not so makbid on every second. That person's not so makbid on every single second. So then I don't know. But the other person, he's very, he's very makbid. He doesn't do the guns about the shaksu and who knows who's in the bathroom and who knows for how long. So all these shilas you guys will don yourselves on Friday night. All right. Thank you. All right. I'd like to talk to you after the shir also. So the two of you, we'll talk after the shir. Now, but let me just be Messiah. What happened today? We didn't do anything. I go, the Biur Halacha over here, tell me if the Biur Halacha is not like this. That's unbelievable. We did nothing today. Thank you. Sorry, but I have to say chumash. I forgot about that. We're back to normal, right? Normal schedule, right? But listen to this, and then we'll end. The Biur Halacha says, listen to this, Rabbi side. This fellow, listen to this, Ma'isa. He opens up his door on Shabbos. He goes outside. He stretches. Right, and he doesn't realize. He goes to the side for a few minutes. He takes a little. In the meantime, there came in a deer, right? A deer, Bambi, right? There inside the house. There's a deer in his house. He has no idea there's a deer in his house. Pasha, no idea. So he comes, he's standing by the door now like this, right? He's standing by the door. All of a sudden he hears this, right? He hears the screaming, right? He hears the screaming. What's going on? He's standing by the door, right? So his wife says, there's a deer here. In the house? There's a deer here. So now he has, right now, that's called Seder. Right now this deer is trapped. Because it's a hard Gemara to understand. I'm standing by a door, there's a deer here. There's a deer trapped. But that's in the Gemara, right? What? He's scared? Yeah, really? Okay, yeah, deers are scared? That's how it goes? Yeah? I hear. Okay. So there he is. He's standing by the door. No, maybe they mean like it's like a Shragi Kallus, as say he's standing by the door. And now there's a deer here. So the Gemara says, he's Yashav Echad ala Pesach. The guy's a story over here. It's a whole Mishnah. He's standing by the door. So listen to this story. Mr. Pakti. The Mishnah Berurah is not sure about something. He's Yashav ala Pesach b'Shiggas Shabbos. Shiggas Malach. Okay. He says, well, Dibra Maschal Yashav Echad ala Pesach. So he says, Achein me Ramban and the Rashba. 1 second. No, I'm in the wrong one. Sorry, I'm in the wrong one. Which one is it? Chayiv. Sorry. Dafka kishiyoda be'esan ila. Dafka, there he is. He sees a deer run into his house. So he stands there like this, right? Or he closes the door. He comes in and he closes the door. So that's no good. Aval, what happened? I come into my house. I walk outside. I come back in. I walk inside. I close the door. And there it is, sitting on the couch. With the feet up and the whole mites over there and the horns and the ganze shofar. And there he is. So I have to go now and open. I didn't know this. So if you found out afterward that Tzvi's here, so then you're potter. Does that doime? That's misasek. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the onesu. He's potter. And whatever. Listen to this. Let's say I didn't know there's a deer over here. And then I find out there's a deer here. Listen to this. Mutter loy leishiv. I could stay here. I can continue staying here. You hear this, Maisa? A deer walks into my house, and I say to myself, no, and now, because it says in the Gemara that Malava Malka is supposed to have like mamish even a better meat and everything, right? And venison, I think it's called, right? Venison. Well, yes, it's venison, right? Venison. It's mamish the finest meat. Yummy. I'm going to eat him, and then I'm going to make myself some deer shoes, right? And then it's going to mamish, and there's anything left with the horns, and we could put it up like the goyim do, like a whole, coming out of the wall and whatever. This is such a hashgacha pratis, right? So, but the only thing is, I'm going to have to stand here until the end of Shabbos. Are you allowed to stand there? And the case is that you didn't know he came in. Now you're standing by the door, and then you realize there's a deer here. So, are you allowed now to stay there until the end of Shabbos. Okay, says the Mishabura, yes, because Kadmad Seder to the Machshava. You hear this Maisa? You're allowed to stand there. Okay, so somebody asked me like this. So he heard that I said about Misasik, about the tissues. The story happened years ago, and I spoke about it in the shul. So I thought, this is what I spoke about. So he said to me, how could you come and say that Misasik and Minchas Baruch and your whole tires and everything? The Mishabura Mefurish holds that on Misasik, there's no Maisa Shabbos. What's the Mishabura? This Mishabura. What does it say in this Mishabura? One moment. Yeah, it's Misasik. Of course it's Misasik. It says Misasik. Mishabura says Misasik. He calls him a Noinus. Mishabura says it's Misasik. Yes, it is. Mishabura says Misasik. Just a moment. Mishabura says Misasik. But what's the Shaila? The Shaila is, Mishabura says over here, this Jew is Misasik. Mishabura says over here, that he doesn't have to go away now and tell the deer you're free. He's allowed to continue his Maisa. He's allowed to stand there. What do you mean? What do you mean? According to what we saw today, you're not allowed to be Nene from the Maisa Shabbos. What's going on over here? What's going on over here? This was the question that somebody asked me. This is the question. What? Oh, so Rabbi Gindi says, the Pasha no Kasha. This Mishnah Brura is saying a different klal, which is a very interesting klal. Mishnah is talking about, do I have to now undo my Maisa? Right now, I trapped a deer. What am I over on right now? Tzeder. Okay? My Maisa of Tzeder that I did taka beheter, because I was Misasik or Al you can't say Tzeder. Now, Kivyachol, B'Shev Al Taisa, I'm continuing the Maisa. But the deer is already trapped. Am I allowed? Says the Meridik Chiddush over here in the Mishnah Brura, Din Yashav Al Pesach Yada. He says, Mutter Leishiv V'Lishmar. You're allowed to remain there. It's a Chiddush, and say that we'll have to get there. What's the Chiddush of the Mishnah Brura? You could have heard that you have to untrap. You could have heard it's Svara. Let's say on Shabbos Be'isr you trap something. You have to untrap. You have to untrap. So here you're seeing that if Beheter you did it, you don't have to untrap. Very nice. It's a Gvaldik Chiddush. Does this have anything to do with our sugi at all? Mamish not. Says Rabbi Gindi, am I getting hana from this deer? Rabbi said, are you allowed to touch this deer on Shabbos? The deer's muksa. He's certainly not getting any hana from this deer on Shabbos. What's the hana? What hana? Elamai Moitze Shabbos. Moitze Shabbos. Shaygig is mutter Moitze Shabbos. So, I mean, what hana are you getting? What hana? What hana? What hana? I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to touch. It's true. On Shabbos, you can't go over now, take that deer, maybe, and start eating it and whatever. You can't do that. I'm asking. Right? You won't be able to do things with that deer on Shabbos, which you're not allowed to do anyways. The deer is muksa, and you can't be mishtamish in the deer, etc., etc. Sorry? You have, but that's not the hana that Chazal are talking about here. You're not doing a ma'isa mishtamish of hana. You're not doing hana. So there's no kasha from this Mishnah Brura. No kasha. I don't know. I ain't in the Sefer Rosh Shabbos, but I don't know. The Char is barer. The barer kashemesh b'tzarayim. That from this Mishnah Brura, there's absolutely no raya, and therefore the psak halacha is like the minchas baruch. And if you don't have a minchas baruch, you're going to go and sell your shoes. Right? Go sell your shoes, because obviously if you don't have a minchas baruch, it means because you made a decision of having shoes and not a minchas baruch. So that was a wrong decision. That was the wrong decision. Go buy a minchas baruch, and the psak halacha is like the minchas baruch. If it would be a misasik, so then we're going to mikoinith shoygi got to mezid according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Meir, we're not. But and Yetz Hashem, we're going to try to finish on Sunday. What do you think? You think we'll be successful? Maybe. But let me just say one thing about the parsha. They're back. No, we're back. Caught it? Yeah, caught it. We're back. Does Danny give me a minute? Or I think so. Okay, everybody say. So, I welcome back all our listeners from Torah Anytime to Yerushalayim Ira Kodesh. Welcome home, Parshas Kiseitze. We're back. Okay. Oh Hashem. So now, in this week's Parsha is the Ben Sira Moira. The Ben Sira Moira is a very, very interesting situation. I mean, this poor little 13-year-old, he doesn't know what hit him. He wants he likes little meat, and he likes a little wine, or a lot of meat and a lot of wine. And then we take him out, and after 3 months, we take him, we throw him off a cliff. If he's still not dead yet, we start with all the boulders. If he's still not dead yet, we take a little pebblach and dust, and we get the whole Klal Yisrael, right? The whole Klal Yisrael comes to see it, right? With signs and flags and to see this little punk that we're going to kill. Why? Because he's a Ben Saramur, because he eats too much meat and too much wine. This is a very interesting thing. You know, Baruch Hashem, I was zeicha this week that my son was nichnas into the old mitzvahs, bar mitzvah. Right? You look at a 13-year-old boy, you look at him trying to make sure the hat fits and the this and that, it's a 13-year-old boy, Rabbi said. 13-year-old boy. It's not it's Farta. He's not he's Farta kid. It's Farta kid. It's such an interesting idea. The whole parsha is so extreme. It's so extreme. It's Omer Darsheni. It's so extreme that this person, we know the word. We know he's going on a mahalach of taiva. He's going on a mahalach that is Basayf is going to come to Deretzich. But there's obviously something majorly which is such an incredible stira to our Torah that the Torah made a big asik out of this Ben Sarimaya. Because if you look at a bar mitzvah boy and you look at what the achrayus and responsibility of what we're telling him, if you go on this path over the course of 3 months, we're going to take a look at you. And if you don't get your act together, after 3 months, we're going to kill you. Within 3 months, not after 3 months, within 3 months, we're going to kill you. Then it must be this mahalach is such an incredible hippich to the Torah that we have to understand it. We have to understand what is this rayon, which is so fakert from Torah Kedosha, that we're willing to kill a 13-year-old boy for it. No, it's an unbelievable thing. It's an unbelievable thing. Rabbi said, at 12 years old and the 351 days, we didn't hold him responsible. All of a sudden, 12 years and 361 days. So now we consider this to be unacceptable type of behavior. And you're not going to be one of us because your entire hanhaga is the hippich of Yiddishkeit. So what's this hanhaga? So there was a great Jew, Rav Nachum, Velveler, I think it was. I never write down his name, but he was a great Jew. What was his name again? Nachum. I think it was Velveler. And he was a great Talmid Chacham, and he was also a person that had a parnasa, and he had a most wonderful vart. He said like this. He said that he was a person, a balabas. He wasn't a balabas, a ganze Talmid Chacham, right? But he was a balabas, and he used to go to Danzig and to Leipzig, to the different shuks and Sachen over there in Germany, and to go to make a little bit of parnasa. He would go maybe about 2 weeks a year, sometimes 3 weeks a year, and that's how he would make a parnasa. So he said about himself that when he would go to Leipzig and to Danzig and these places in Germany, he knew the German language enough to get by. He knew the German language enough to get by, he said, but he didn't know the grammar. Grammar, he didn't grammatically correct, he was not. But he knew enough to get by. That's a lot of us are like that in all the languages, right? My kids are born in Eretz Yisrael, so they could do it in English and in Hebrew and in Yiddish. They know enough to get by in all 3 languages. Right? But the grammar, so he said, why is it that I don't know the grammar when I go to Germany? He says, because for that, it's enough to get by. But Mashenkin over here, it's Rick in Poland, I have to know the sprach. It's over here, you need to know the language with the grammar, because over here, it's not enough just to get by. But when I'm going to Germany, it's enough just to get by. I don't need to know the grammar. So said this, Rav Nachum Velveler, said Murdik, he said the Gemara in Brachas on Daf Yud Zayin. The Gemara brings down the Margul de Pummi of different Amayroyim. So it brings down Rav. What did Rav walk around saying always? Always. Malga de Pummi de Rav. Rav would walk around saying this all the time. He would say, in Oilam, Haba, there's loy achila, veloy shtia, veloy sheina, over and over. In Oilam, Haba, there's only nenem ziv shchina. And the Gemara says a whole list of things over there. In Oilam, and he would say this all the time. So Reb Nachum asked the Kasha, why is he all the time saying this? We know, in Oilam Haba, there's no achila, there's no shtia. What's he going around being mechaz himself? No achila. And he would say it all the time. This is why I once saw, I can't remember where, maybe in the Ben Yoyada, he said, when it says the Marayim would say this all the time, it means that whenever they would, be walking and they would want to relax, this is what they would say, Oilam Haba, no achila, no shtia, no sheina, only nenem ziv shchina. What was he trying to say? So he said what he's trying to explain is that where you come from, so then you have to know the language. It's not enough to get by. But if you're only in a place where you're just trying to sell your goods, you're just trying to get by, then you don't need to know the grammar. He was trying to say, says the Heilige Rav, I am from Oilam Haba. My neshama comes from Oilam Haba, and that's where I'm returning to. I'm a neshama. I'm only for one purpose. Nenem ziv ashchina. There's no achila, there's no shtia. I need to know the grammar of Oilam Habadika language. The grammar of Oilam Hazadika language is not just Vicent. I don't need to know. Over here, just got to get by. So you got to eat. You got to drink. But you don't have to make a big asik out of it. You have to eat, you have to drink, and you have to know what's going on. Pachas Yosef in the world. The person has to know who to vote for, right? But Pachas Yosef, it's enough to know what's going on, but not to machen an asik from them. And that's why Rav would walk around saying himself, La yachila, la shtia, because he wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to learn the grammar of the German society. That's the grace you say. And that's the pshat over here in the Ben Saira Moira. The Ben Saira Moira is making a very big deal out of your, so then like I said, we got to get you out of here because you're making a mistake. You belong be'emes in Olam Haba. Your tachlis has to be ruchnias. You're from Olam Haba, you're going back to Olam Haba. That is the grammar that you have to try to get accustomed to. So therefore you have to, the dikdukim have to be in davening. The dikduk has to be the grammar. The dikduk has to be in learning, in wanting every single pshat in the Gemara and knowing every halach and the dikduk of mitzvahs. Because ruchnias, that's where the grammar has to be. Achila, shtia, you just got to get by. You just got to get by. Shayna, to know what's going on in the world, you got to get by. You can't have a person who walks around this world, he doesn't know what's going on, doesn't eat, doesn't drink. That you can't do. And that's the Yisai, the Ben Saira Moira is the ganz hippich of that. He's a ganz hippich. The Ben Saira Moira is somebody, he is medaktik in the oilam hazeh. He knows the grammar. This meat is the finest meat. The Gemara says all types of things. The yayin italki and the basa this and that. He knows this meat and he knows that wine and that wine tastes like this and that food like that and that. And he gets everything involved. In ruchnias, that's where you have to be medaktik in grammar. That's the part. No, I once heard a story. I had to believe it. I don't know if it happened now, but the story in Mistam is at least a mashal. There's once a bacher that there were other bacher, and they were going to, once and for all, give it to this bacher. He was a nudnik bacher, He was a nick nud. Mom's the worst. Right? And so a bunch of bacher decided they're going to play a trick on him. So the bacher wakes up in the morning, and they have costumes in the room and everything. They wake up in the morning, and what costumes? What's going on over here? It's a tshuva. Why do they have costumes? They tell him, why do we have what do you mean? Purim is in 3 days from now. What are you talking about? Purim? What are you talking about? Yom Kippur's in 3 days from now, not Purim. What? I think you're still asleep. I mean, it's not maybe Yom Kippur, but it's Purim in 3 days. Are you crazy? Kitzur, these Bachrim, they did a good job. In the hall, there's signs with like the different collection groups and Tat and this and that, Kitzur, he walks outside, he's going to wash Nagel, but he's over here, Purim, 57, 80, I mean, we're going to get more money than before, What's going on here? It's crazy, right? He hears like, the Bachrim are in there. He hears, nine. It smells a little bit like wine already, I mean, that whole nonsense. The whole world's gone crazy. So he goes to the Rosh Hashiva. What's going on? The whole Yeshiva, everybody's in on this. So the Rosh Hashiva's not in on this. They got the Rosh Hashiva in it also, right? So Shiva, he comes to the Rosh Hashiva. He says, Baruch Hashem, even though it saves man, but you see, Taka right before Purim, the Eilim's man is steig. You do, yeah, everyone's steiging. Kids is mamish b'shikah because I don't know, the whole world's gone crazy. So he calls up a friend in a different yeshiva. They know which friend he's going to call. So he says, "No, where are you having the Suda Taka? Suda what? The Suda's Masak? Suda's Masakas? What? No, where are you going to have the Purim Suda? What? You too? Me too? So he starts with Taka. It must be Purim. Must be Taka Purim. He says, you can't. The stores can't be in the stores, right? They've been selling lulav and esrogim over there. Kitty goes outside. They dealt with the stores also. There's mamish instead of lulav and esrogim, there's like costumes, and there's whoever made up the story has a great imagination. Does it? There's costumes over there and this does the whole massive. Kitty finally says, what? I guess it's Purim. You can't beat them, join them. So he goes. He buys himself a costume. It's already shiny. Kitty, kum taka Erev Yom Kippur. Puts on his, or Erev Purim, he puts on his costume with the boots, and the whole thing. He's got like a whole thing of wine. He comes in there, right? And then he walks in, for Kriyas Megillah, and it's called Nidre, and you hear a guy, nine. And you hear the Chazan, called Nidre. Looks around, right? Right? So I don't know if that story ever happened. I don't know if the story ever happened or not. But in Nitin B'Shus, to use it as a mashal. The Yetzer Hara does the same thing. Badek the ganze Welt. He covers up, there's a whole world out there that looks like there's so much going on and everything is really, really important. What's really going on is Eibishter, the Rebbeinu Shalom, Ruchnias, Torah, Mitzvahs, Maisim Toivim, Midas Toivim, and nothing else. Das is the ganze Welt. And he makes the whole world. Oh, food is very important. Every advertisement telling you how important if you get this type of meat and that, and this clothing, and go further. He tells you about this and whether it's Trump and this one and that, and the whole world and Corona and everything. It's so many important things going on and looters and the whole world and everything is so crazy. It's all one big ganze bluff. Everything that's out there is all what? So there's some people that medactic in the oilam hazeh. They have to manage. They have to make sure they know what's going on in every single prat in the news, and they have to know today what exactly is going on. Clap Corona, what's going on? This, as if it's not, because it's not going to change tomorrow. And they have to know. Are they looting today? Don't worry, they'll be looting tomorrow. Every few years they have to loot. Rabbi says, they gate us, right? And we get very involved, and we have to do this, and we have to. But no. When it comes to ruchnius, that's not where my grammar is. So what do you have to do? It has to be fakert. You have to live in this world, with essen, with drinking, and you have to know who to vote for, and you have to know which neighborhoods to stay away from, right? And that's it. But not to be medactic, And the Yetzer Hara covers it up like it's a ganze world, so that you can get lost, and that you think it's mamish taka gevein, you think it's mamish la Yehudim, you think it's Purim. And he can get all caught up in that ganze Purim, and he doesn't realize where he's supposed to be putting his emphasis. Is taka, the dikduk has to be in ruchnius, and that's what the Ben Surameir is. That's a lesson. Maisa, I was zeicha this week to be machnis my son to a bar mitzvah, and into the oilam mitzvahs. But there was no party. There's no party because what can you do? You can't have people because for some reason that's when the whole corona spreads. So everybody opens their mouth, they put inside food. And that's how it goes. And then they, I guess their guard gets down, and then they start shaking hands and they start kissing each other. But that's how it goes. So no party. And it was an interesting experience. Very interesting experience. I made 3 bar mitzvahs. He was supposed to be the last bar mitzvah until the Erev mitzvah, but he was the last one. It's a very interesting difference between a bar mitzvah of the sort that we had. So what did we do? We got the family. I couldn't even have my boys. They're in yeshiva and they're not allowed out. Right? It sounds like jail. Right? They're not allowed out because of their capsula. You all know this, right? So it was me and my wife and my married daughter, and that was it. My 2 little girls, and that was it. That was the whole. We brought the son-in-law too, and that was it. And then we had a bar mitzvah. But we made a proper bar mitzvah. With real food. We murdered cows and everything. It was a real, a real maisa. He led the mizumim, but it was such an interesting experience. I'm not saying, I know there's Rabbanim, this is not my position. There's bigger people than me can say this. People saying, halavai, today no more simchas. And ask your own. I don't know. That's not my point. Don't medayik from what I'm saying. But it was a very interesting experience. It was the first bar mitzvah that there was only mitzvah, no bar. You understand? It was the first bar mitzvah that there was only no bemis. My son asked me at the bar mitzvah, he said to me, what's the maisa, the difference between this bar mitzvah and every other bar mitzvah? I wanted to know what was the difference. By him it was just, I ain't getting presents. That was the difference between this bar mitzvah and every other. I said to him, well, there's no people around, right? And it's mixed seating. That's, it's also a difference and whatever. I started telling him, I told him, it's so interesting, I wash at all the bar mitzvahs, because you're supposed to wash it to Sudas mitzvah, but it's so not ruig. I wash and I don't remember if I ate the bread, I didn't eat the bread, and it's so annoying to eat the. Here I washed like a mensch. Okay. And then afterward, with the bar mitzvah, the normal bar mitzvah, do I get to talk to my son, the bar mitzvah, do I get to tell him the value? I told him, what it is. We went through all the mitzvahs that he's going to do, the rices. For the first time, I don't forget the first mitzvah, simcha, you better have simcha, and don't forget Kriya Shema is deraisa, and, one by one, keep it up, that's a mitzvah deraisa, No, but be'emes, we went through all the mitzvahs. Do I get a chance to talk to the kid at the bar mitzvah? Never get a chance. He was able to do things that we never got a chance to do before, right? I never ate at any of my bar mitzvahs. Just done, never got a chance. I get no time to eat, right? There was no mitzvah. I got to talk to him. I got to hear, he had a drasha. It's very modna, just me and my son-in-law going, it didn't work. We had to let him say the drasha. We had no choice, right? Tried to get the girls involved. Tati, why are you singing? He's trying to talk. So it was a lot of mitzvah. I'm not these people getting up and saying no more simchas and we saved a lot of money. I'm not. It's done, but it made me the hair that we got to the pneumius of the mitzvah. The grammar and the dikduk that we did was in the mitzvah. And not in all the Rash, and not in all the bar, and I'm not saying I don't want to mezalzel in Yiddish simchas. We should say it's a galavai. We should have Yiddish simchas. But there was maybe at least it makes us remember that when there'll be the big simchas to be medactic, and then we went afterward. We davened Meir by the Kaisel, and you got the Amid. Something in a million years I never would have been able to do on a regular night of a bar mitzvah. How could you do such a thing? You're at the bar mitzvah. It's not the gaya. And it was the most unbelievable pneumistic, mitzvah experience. And the grammar was all placed in that which be'emes has value. And that which be'emes has the value. And all the other stuff is rash. It's rash. You have to do it. You have to have a bar mitzvah. I'm asking, you have to invite people and you have to be normal. I'm not saying that like that. But where do we put the grammar? Where do we put the dictum? When I go to the fair in Leipzig and in Danzig, so I just got to get by. So in this world, and that Taka, that's the big message. I taught him that message. I told him that, the other boys, they didn't get this message from me. They didn't sit together and get the message of what is a bar mitzvah and what's the geschmackheit and Torah and the first mitzvah. I don't know if they had kavanah in the first Kriya Shema. I mean, I hope they did. But I don't know if they had kavanah in the first Kriya Shema. But here we put the stress and the grammar in the mitzvahs. That's a great yesod. And that yesod is so big, it's very matim that we tell it to a 13-year-old boy, the Ben Sarah Myra. Because we tell him, listen, when you start your life, listen, if you're like this, so then you're okay. If you're just getting by in Olam Hazeh, then you're okay. But if you're going to make Olam Hazeh into a big ASIC, then you don't belong. Then get out of here. And we don't need you. Okay. Good Shabbos, Rabbi. Good Shabbos, Rabbi. Good Shabbos. We're going to learn Seder, but that's complicated. It has to be that at no point could the deer have gotten out.